Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the Big Ten preview. Every week, we're going to go over the biggest games in the Big Ten. Along with me, Brian LeBel, Vincent Turner, the co-host and founder. Vincent, first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on there in the Big Ten. Last week, there were some feathers ruffled. I think anyone in Pennsylvania right now is going, what on earth was UCLA thinking by beating up on our Nittany Lions the way that they did?
Well, tell a true story. Last week, I was out working, had my phone with me in my car, and I called somebody, and they said that Penn State was down by 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And I said, "You got to be kidding me!" So, as I continued my work throughout the day, I said, "Well, Penn State gonna make a run, and they're gonna turn it around." But that didn't happen. They lost. So, as I said before, James Franklin, you're on the hot seat, baby. Pretty boy, you might be getting a heavy payout at the end of the year. If you do not close out and make the college football playoffs and win the Big Ten this year, I can see you along with some other coaches that we talked about on the other shows. Bye bye, sayonara. Back to you, Hawk.
Strange but true. You know, you can't be a number two, number three in the country, Brian, and lose two games to one of them to a team that hasn't won yet. Granted, everybody in the Big Ten can play, and any team can beat anybody else. But you go out to California, you lay an egg, and you've got some angry folks there, especially some alumni that make large contributions, and many have checks that might have two commas in it. Those kind of folks make a difference. But James Franklin, you agree? Is he on the hot seat now?
I think he's been on the hot seat for a while. The excuse was just we're
Yeah,
losing to Ohio. We're losing to the eventual national champs, right? It's not like we're
yeah.
losing to UCLA. We're losing to Ohio State. We're losing to Michigan every year, which you hate that. But, to go and lose to because we talked about it last week. We said UCLA might not win another game the rest of the year. And then they came out and it was a tidal wave of offense. I don't know. I don't know what happened. It might have been one of those things where they go out west and they're kind of overlooking, like, oh, hey, we got Ohio State in a couple weeks, and we really got to win that one, and then we're back in the conversation. But you got to show up to play every single week, and veteran coaches and coaches that, to be frank, aren't on the hot seat. They would have their players understanding that, but they right the ship there in the second half, but it wasn't enough. Give all the credit in the world to UCLA, right? Everything went wrong for them to start the season, and to show the fire and the intensity. I mean, they're carrying people off the field for Pete's sake. It was a great moment for them, and it was that's why you love college football. If you're a Penn State fan, probably not as much, but yeah, it's win, almost win out, or else Franklin might be wearing a different color hat on the sideline next season.
Yeah, could be. All right, let's look at the standings here when we get started. Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon are all undefeated. They're 5-0. There's five other teams that only have one loss. Michigan, Illinois at 5-1, USC, Washington, Maryland, and Nebraska. All of them are 4-1. You've got a logjam at the top. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to see some settling, if you will. The dust is going to be kicked up and then settle up. Let's go right into the games for this week, folks. Let's take a look. The first one here is on a Friday evening. I personally do not like Friday night college games, especially from a Big Ten level, because you take eyes away from high school football. That's just my personal opinion. But this will be a big one now for the Huskies at Husky Stadium. It's a late start. Rutgers won't get home till 6 in the morning the next day. I hope they take that into consideration, but at least it'll be Saturday and not Sunday when they arrive. First and foremost, Brian, your thoughts here on Huskies taking on Rutgers, 4-1 University of Washington against the 3-2 Scarlet Knights.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they're double-digit favorites. Washington is. These Friday night games, I always call them trap games, right? Because it's just you're playing a day earlier, and sometimes getting the clock going and being ready to go at kickoff is a little bit more difficult when you're not used to it. And I would kind of have Washington in that position where I think they might be on upset alert. I would call it a bit of an upset, but they're at home, which is great for them. As you mentioned, it's unfortunate for the Scarlet Knights, but it's great for Washington. I think this is a game they should win. I think this is a game they will win. But right after this, you got at Michigan and you got Illinois back-to-back. So we're going to find out a lot about this Huskies team and if they are actual contenders in the Big Ten over the next 3 weeks. Rutgers has a chance to play spoiler. They've been playing some good football, not quite good enough. They're 3-2, but if you're Washington, bad loss against Ohio State, but if you can win this one and then find a way to win next week, you're right back in the thick of things in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Vincent, Jed Fish loses to the number one team in the country. They kind of lay an egg offensively. They just get a couple of field goals. I think there might have been some pedal to the metal in terms of the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, the offensive line, everybody going, we can't have this happen again, or else we're through. What are your thoughts here about the Huskies?
They were dead in the waters last week. Trailed 20-3 going in the third quarter against Maryland. Came back and won that football game. That showed me a lot of heart and grit. Don't make no mistake. These are the Huskies. They got a chance now to prove that they believe they belong in the college football playoff conversation. Huge football game, and they should win this game because they're heavily favored, in my opinion. And all I can say is now, Judd Fish, eyes on you because your football team should win this game at home. Husky Stadium, the crowd is going to be behind you. You back in the college football playoff discussion, and that was a huge win for them last week in Maryland. Back to you, Harp.
What about Ryan Day now? What does he got to do to get things going? I'm sorry, my slides are. I got to recreate everything. Give me a second. This Ryan Day, 5-0, Ohio State Buckeyes against the number 17 ranked Illinois Illini, 5-1. They're 2-1 in the conference. Vincent, I'll start with you on this one. I think everyone in the state of Illinois will have a orange or navy blue shirt, or maybe a combination thereof with both, in a way that they haven't in a long, long while. I know you want to bring up Dick Butkus and Jeff George and everybody else that was a part of the Illini history, but I'm telling you right now, for obviously good reasons, these two teams are going against each other. And does Illinois have a shot to pull an upset here, even though it really won't be an upset the way that they're ranked? But are they ready? Do they have the depth? Do they have Luke Altmaier doing everything that he needs to be doing to just do it one more time and pull a rabbit out of his hat?
I'm going to answer your question. I thought about this game real closely last night. The answer, 3 answers. No, 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 because this is a very good Ohio State football team. This team might be better than the team that won the national championship. And they lost, 14 players to the NFL draft? Look what they're doing. Last week against Minnesota, they made me a believer. I thought Minnesota was going to play them close to play them somewhat. But what's really surprising is Julian Sand, the quarterback, has started to come around. Just think about it. He was at Alabama, man. And Caleb DeBoer took the job, and he didn't want to play for Caleb DeBoer. Transferred to Ohio State. They got the Superman, the best player in the country, Jeremiah Smith. And look like he coming into his own now. Cornell Tate, another NFL high draft prospect at the receiver position. Running back Bo Jackson, 360 yards. But what's really impressive with Ohio State, Matt Patricia and the defense. And a guy that sat on the bench 3 years. Remember this name, gentlemen. We got to give him his love this evening. Caden Curry. Maybe the best football player in the country on the defensive side, about 29 tackles, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. This Ohio State team, to be honest, is the best football team right now in the country that I've seen so far with my eyes. Back to you, Harp.
Julian Sand, Brian, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But Luke Altmaier, he's got 1,573 yards, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions. His completion percentage is right at 70%. These could be 2 of the best quarterbacks, not only in the conference, but guys, if they end up winning out, either one of these teams, you might be seeing these guys in January and every other week there during the playoff.
Well, I'll say this to kind of touch on what Vincent was saying. Ohio State last week gave up less than 100 yards through the air. I mean, just dominant. It wasn't even close. Now, Minnesota's a team. We talked about them on the show last week. They're very good against the run. They were pretty good against Ohio State, right? Ohio State, they only had 133 yards on the ground in that game. So they did a great job of keeping them in check. But, like what Vincent was saying, Julian Sand played an almost flawless football game. Like he really, it was like 7-on-7 out there for him. I think he only had 4 incompletions the whole game. He had 3 touchdowns, almost as many TDs as incompletions. When you have that as a stat line, that's pretty doggone good. But It's a different animal this week. I think Illinois, a loss is never good, but I think that loss a couple weeks ago kind of woke them up. Indiana kind of woke them up. This is a game that a lot of people thought, as far as Big Ten fans are concerned, that would be, both teams undefeated, right? We expected maybe both teams in the top 10 here, but Sayan's been great. On the flip side of that, you have to look at what Illinois has done as well. Luke Altmaier's been spectacular. He's been almost perfect. I don't think he has interception yet on the year, 12 touchdowns. This could be a shootout. I don't expect it to be. I think both teams have a decent defense where they can kind of slow each other down, but these are two quarterback prospects that, I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys get a chance to really play on Sunday in the next couple of years.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The numbers are indicating that they're playing really well when they need to here for their respective schools. Next game we're going to look at, they're 1-4 right now. UCLA couldn't beat Utah, UNLV. They couldn't beat New Mexico or Northwestern, but boy, they beat the pants off of Penn State. Well, 42-37. It'll look like a rout for the rest of UCLA's history and put them right at 1-1. That's not a bad place to be. You're kind of in the bottom half of the middle of the standings, but you go to Michigan State, you win one there, and next thing you know, you can creep up after a horrible beginning of the season. And Brian, I'll start with you. Nico Iamaleava ends up leaving. Deshaun Foster, the head coach, is fired. The Bruins seem to have a little bit of focus right now. We'll find out whether or not they can do it in East Lansing.
This is one of those stories and one of those situations where it's impossible not to love college football, right? Just the outcome. If you're a UCLA fan, you're dead in the water. The season's over, and you got Penn State just to kind of rub your face in the dirt a little bit more coming in next week, and you win the game. They come out, they score a ton of points. The team's on fire. You got guys making plays who you weren't even sure would be on the roster coming into the season, right? You got backups, and they're just throwing names in and out to see what they have, and they end up beating a team that realistically should still have a decent chance of making the college football playoff. But a great story for them. They got a ton of momentum. Michigan State, is kind of going the opposite direction. They don't really have a lot of momentum for them. They're not playing their best football as of the last few weeks. I think this is another game UCLA could win. I'm kind of 180 on, what I was saying about them last week. I was kind of gloom and doom, and now, you know what? It's when you're in this kind of situation and your back's against the wall and you got nothing to lose, it's a lot of fun to watch some of these teams play. It was awesome watching them celebrate last week, and I think they got a decent chance again this week.
UCLA, this is a 12 o'clock game, so it's 9 o'clock in the morning from a Pacific Standard Time. Vincent, I think a lot of West Coast teams, when they come out to the East Coast, it almost takes them a first half in order to get warmed up. And I'm kind of teasing there, but San Francisco used to come out early. They come out a day early for their pro games, and they did it just to get acclimated a little bit better because they didn't want to play flat in the first half. The Sparties right now, they're 3-2 overall, but they're 0-2. They have to win this game in order to salvage any kind of, one, a bowl game, but two, just where they are in the standings. What do they need to do in order to be able to just settle things down, start getting back on the winning track again, get your fans and your student body back in and enjoying the games and cheering for you and beating the UCLA team that is riding a little high right now?
Number one, they need to get mentally ready to play because this is a UCLA team that's coming in playing with no house money. They had a big win against Penn State, and they come in here, they're going to be playing loose. I hate to keep saying this, but there's another coach that left Oregon State, Jonathan Smith. He took the Michigan State job, say he can win now. They're 3-2, 0-2 in the conference. He's got a real talented quarterback, and Adam Childs has been up and down. This is a crucial game for Michigan State because they lose this game. Let me get it corrected. They go 0-3 in the conference, right?
Yeah.
Hot seat. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I just don't know how they're going to be able to they've got a lot of problems offensively. Michigan State does. And if UCLA is scoring 42 points on Penn State, again, Penn State must have been, food poisoning or something like that. Maybe they went to Lowry's and ate too many steaks, or had too many In-N-Out burgers. Who knows? But UCLA came to play, and they are on house money. I agree with you. They got nothing to lose. And everything to win just by going out and playing hard. It's a shame that they didn't do that earlier in the year. All right, the game that I'm going to stop what I'm doing to watch at least a little bit of this thing, Oregon at 5-0. They're number 3 in the country against 5-0 and number 7 in the country, Indiana. Vincent, I'll start with you. This is must-see TV. Am I right?
No question about it. I'm gonna go back to my days when I was a young guy like Brian, and I was going to the clubs in Memphis, Tennessee, and there was a gentleman out of Miami, Florida. He had a song, "Do You Want to Party?" KC and the Sunshine Band. Kurt Sagetti, Indiana, I'm loving what you're doing. Harper, you know I love their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza.
Yep.
What he got? 16 touchdowns on the year, 1 interception.
Yep.
You know I like Oregon's quarterback, Dante Moore. And you know I like Oregon's head coach because he got it started, you know where, the 901 University of Memphis. This is going to be an outstanding football game, man. And you know what? It's going to be a lot of high scoring in this game. And I think Indiana has a chance. And I'm rooting, even though I like Dan Lanning, how you could not love Kurt Sagetti. Last year, he took a lot of flack for his team making the college football playoffs. Then he said, okay, y'all saying we don't deserve to be there. Y'all calling us a basketball school. Indiana ranked number 7, and
Yep.
they playing Oregon. This is going to be the game of the day because that turf up there in Eugene going to be hot because there's some serious skilled people on both sides of the ball. Back to you, Hawk.
I did a little bit of a comparison. Fernando Mendoza for Indiana, 73% is his completion percentage. Dante Moore, 74%.
Yeah.
Mendoza,
Uh-huh.
1,208 yards passing. Moore has 1,210, a 2-yard difference right there. One has 16 touchdowns, the other has 14. Both have 1 interception. Mendoza's been sacked a few more times. Total of 19 touchdowns in the air for Indiana. They have 11 on the ground, 15 and 14 in the air and on the ground for Oregon. Indiana rushes 6.1 per carry. Oregon has 6.3 per carry. I can go on and on and on. The defenses, I think, Brian, will make the difference. Indiana's defense has 16 sacks and 7 interceptions.
Ooh.
Oregon's defense has 9 sacks and 5 interceptions. When you look at two schools that are offensively the juggernauts that they are, I think if you make a team punt in the second half or make them punt twice, you may have a chance to win because it's going to come down to who has the last possession, according to most people that are dissecting this game. What say you?
This is one of those games that's really difficult to judge because this is one, like Vincent said, where you think the turf is going to be on fire because you guys running all up and down the field. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's the exact opposite and both teams have an absolute slugfest on defense. I think the weather's going to be a factor. I haven't looked what the weather's going to be like, but this is a game for both teams. And if you look at the rest of the schedule, now listen, you're not supposed to do that, right? That's a cardinal sin. Don't look ahead. Realistically, the winner of this game has a very, very good chance to be undefeated and go to the Big Ten championship game because the schedule really lightens up for both of these guys after the fact. If you're Indiana, if you win this game, you're looking top 3, top 4 probably next week. And, who would have thought we'd be saying that, right, at the beginning of the season? But to make some noise in the Big Ten, I'm really high on Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver, the leading receiver for Indiana right now. I think he's spectacular. Mendoza's obviously been great, but this is a really good game on paper now and with everything else. And I think Indiana's kind of doing what we thought Illinois would be, right, at this point in the season where there was a decent chance where we thought, Illinois would be undefeated at this point. But, I love both these quarterbacks. I think Dante Moore is spectacular. We broke down film on him last week, and there's really nothing about his game to dislike. I think Dan Lanning, he has his guys ready for these kind of games. It's going to be a phenomenal environment. And honestly, I think it could realistically go either way. And I'm excited to watch this thing come Saturday.
Real quick, after this game, Indiana has Michigan State, UCLA at home. They play at Maryland, at Penn State, Wisconsin at home, and then at Purdue. Just to give you a real quick overview of Oregon's schedule, and this is how I'm agreeing with you, Brian. Rutgers, excuse me. So they got to go east. Then they got Wisconsin at home, at Iowa, Minnesota, USC, and at Washington. So neither one of them are playing a ranked opponent if the scheduling and the rankings stay the way that they are right now. I think you're absolutely correct in the fact that this is the most important game. This is the one that they probably circled when they started training camp in July and August, and I think it's still circled. And not that you can take a breath of fresh air, but boy, the horizon certainly is a lot flatter, and there's a lot less hurdles if you win. If you win this game,
If it's
boils
a
out of
close
that.
game too, even the loser still has a chance, right? To say, hey, if we keep it close, down the stretch, we win the rest of our games, we still have a chance to go play in the Big Ten title game at the very least, right? If not, you're almost guaranteeing yourself a college football playoff berth. But I don't know what the percentages are right now, but the winner of this game probably got to be, as far as their chance of making the playoffs skyrockets. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you look at Ohio State and Oregon last year. They play in Eugene,
yeah.
and it's a 3-point game, if I'm not mistaken. They play again in the Rose Bowl in January, and it's an absolute blowout. So, anything can happen, but I'm just saying that you've got the ability to bounce back, even if it's a loss. But both teams look like at 5-0 going into it, they've got a really solid chance to be playing for the Big Ten championship, and they may see each other for the championship, or at least in the playoff. A very interesting perspective right there. All right, the next game we're going to look at, Northwestern will be taking on Penn State. They've got to travel to Pennsylvania for that game. Northwestern has struggled a little bit this year, guys. They're 3-2, but they're only 1-1 in the conference. Not too bad. And Penn State is now 0-2. They were 3-2. They were 3-0 at one point. Now they're 3-2. Vincent, give me your perspective right now. Do the Wildcats go in there watching this UCLA film and go, dude, if all we do is just play as hard as the Bruins do and we get a win in Penn State, are you kidding? We'll be heroes in Evansville for the rest of the year.
My answer to that is this: Penn State will be ready to play. Northwestern has struggled all year long. Preston Stone, who came on from SMU, I thought was going to be a guy to be real good in that system. He struggled. But to the Penn State faithful, and mark my word on this, and I'm not trying to be a comedian this evening, by no means. If Penn State end up losing that football game on Saturday, next week when we on this channel, James Franklin might not be the head coach at Penn
He might be
State.
joining us. He could join us next week.
Correct, correct. This a game that Penn State needs, must, and should win. Back to you, Hawk.
Okay, simply put, Brian, does Northwestern have a chance? With that
Uh,
being said,
You know what? The way Penn State's playing right now, I think everybody's got a chance, right? They shouldn't. This is a game that Penn State should dominate. I think this has to be their get right game, right? They can't
Hmm.
really afford to lose down the stretch. I think you got to win the rest of them. We talked about at the beginning of the show. Like what Vincent said, Stone has not been very good, and it's not necessarily anything other than mistakes. The turnovers have been really bad. If he can clean that up, if he can play a mistake-free game, I think Northwestern has a chance to contend. But I mean, Penn State should win this game handily.
they lost to Oregon, Penn State did, and Oregon is ranked number 6. Next week, they've got Iowa. Then they got at Ohio State, and then Indiana in back-to-back weeks after that. Wouldn't it be interesting if they flop against Oregon and UCLA, and then they win those next two and get themselves right back in it? James Franklin's going to come on the show and he go, "Okay, who's calling who, pretty boy?"
He's gonna call you out, Vincent.
Yeah, my guys are ready. We just we can get in with 2 losses. It won't be easy, but we'll see how that turns out. Or as you said, Vincent, it could be a disaster. So we'll see how it turns out. But that, of course, the 3:30 game on FS1. Here's another one, Nebraska. This I might want to watch this one a little bit. Nebraska at 4-1 against Maryland 4-1. This game will be in Maryland. Each team is 1-1 in the conference, and they've kind of whispered their way into a position where we're still here. We might not be as relevant as you think, but at 4-1, this will be a very important game here, especially for Maryland. I think there'll be a lot of folks there saying that the Turtles are for real, and we're going to show you why. Vincent, we'll start with you.
Last week, Maryland had a tremendous opportunity to really be put on the national schedule. Think about this, gentlemen. They blew a 20-3 lead going into the
Yep.
fourth quarter and lost that football game. So to me, that's still a good football team. I think Mike Losky has done an outstanding job. This football game here is against another team, Nebraska, that wants to be in a big-time player. They got a big-time quarterback in Dylan Raiola that y'all should know. Played at Bruford High School. My man Matt Rule has been saying all along since he's been there, he want to get Nebraska back to the days of Johnny Rogers and Jerry Taggy. Well, you know what? This game right here, to me, is kind of like an elimination game. The loser of this game, we're gonna say, okay, they're gonna go back to the middle of the pack. The winner of this game is we're gonna say it's still got a chance to play for the Big Ten championship and be in the mix. I'm going with Maryland though. I think Maryland is gonna rebound. They, as I said before, they lost a real tough football game. There's a lot of teams out there don't blow a 23 lead on their home field going into the fourth quarter. So I'm looking for them to bounce back. Back to you, Hart.
Let me throw some defense at you, Brian. The number one team in the conference right now, obviously Ohio State. They've only given up 25 points in 5 games. That's ridiculous. 48 is next. That's by Indiana. 61 by Oregon. The next lowest amount is 67 total points given up by Maryland. Now, they don't score a heck of a lot. They've only scored 150, but they're 4-1. Now, Nebraska scored 212 points. They've only given up 81. So the distribution is pretty close to one another, but I think whoever plays better defense may end up winning this ball game. Your thoughts?
Well, what's interesting is if Maryland wins that game, last week, they're probably favored, right? We're probably sitting here thinking this is a really good football team, and they're in the Big Ten conversation, right? But then the tough part for them is not right now. It's down the stretch. You look at their schedule. They got Nebraska, obviously, this week, but then they're UCLA. That's a winnable game. You got Indiana, and then Rutgers, and 2 of your final 3 are Illinois and Michigan. So the schedule gets a lot harder for this team. That win last week would have been huge. I think it puts them in the national conversation. Now they're kind of back down to earth a little bit, but that's why conference play is what it is, right? Because you got to play everybody, kind of, separate the men from the boys as far as who's a contender and, who's not quite there. But, I like this Maryland team. I think they're very well-rounded. I think they play really well. I think quarterback play for them has been decent. Malik Washington's been very solid. I think both quarterbacks, kind of similar numbers. Rayola's been a little bit better on fewer passes, but I think this could be a really good game. I wouldn't be surprised if if either team comes out on top. I think Maryland, they got a little bit of an advantage playing at home, but I think the winner of this game puts himself in a great position going forward in the Big Ten.
Well, the Big Ten Network will host this. It's at 3:30 Eastern Time. And then the next game we're going to look at also at 3:30. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was looking at the wrong game. This one is at 7 o'clock on FS1, Fox Sports 1. Iowa at 3-2 against Wisconsin, who's 2-3. Wisconsin at home. They're 0-2 in the conference. This is another game, Vincent, where obviously the Badgers have to win in order to salvage any form of decency in the conference. But if they're looking at a bowl game, this is another important one for them. You only need 6, but you struggled a little bit. This is a beatable team in Iowa. What do the Badgers have to do, in your opinion, to kind of settle the rough waters that they're sailing in right now?
One thing about Wisconsin, they can't score points. That's kind of really been their problem. And I hate to keep bringing up this subject tonight, gentlemen. Wisconsin needs this win more than Iowa. They go 2-4. What you say they are in the conference again, Harp? They 0-2, correct?
They're 0-2, and speaking of points, they've scored 93 this season in their 5 games. They've given up 99. So I'm not worried about that, but that's the lowest by far. Every other team, with the exception of UCLA, has well over 100 points that they've scored. And there's 1, 2, 3 that have scored over 200 points. There's 4 of them, but they've scored less than 100.
Where they go 1-3 in the conference if they lose this game to Iowa.
That's correct.
And I hate to keep bringing this up about coaches, but I think my man Luke Fickell, I thought when he left Cincinnati, got this head job, I thought he was going to turn that program around a little bit. And remember, he was rumored to be the next guy in line at Ohio State before Ryan Day. But if Wisconsin loses this game, they go 0-3 in the conference. All I can say is this: pink slip in Madison. That's all I got to say. Pink slip. Lou Fickell, you might start to be maybe packing your baggage and maybe moving on, my brother. Back to you, Hop.
In order to make that happen, Iowa, who is 3-2 right now, they've scored 147 points, given up 78. So give or take, they're scoring 2 points and giving up 1. This might be a takeaway game that Iowa has right now. This is one of those ones they go, hey, we need to get back at this to be 2-1 in the conference. Let's do this. Let's go steal one on the road. Brian, your thoughts about Iowa's chances?
Well, I mean, coming into this game, is there a worse game this week as far as passing offenses? Because, Wisconsin's 125th, but Iowa's, I want to say they're ranked, they're 95th as far as total passing. This has been an ugly couple of games, right, for both of these teams. It's just, we got to figure something out. We got to move the football. In college, it's a lot more important, right? You got to be able to stretch the field and go vertically and let your skill guys get involved. And neither quarterback, neither school has really been able to do that. I would not be surprised. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. This is going to be your typical late year. You expect the cold weather, Big Ten games. We're going to run the football and play some defense. And, in typical, more so Iowa than Wisconsin fashion, but there's probably going to be a lot of punts in this game, right? A lot of flipping the field position. And I think realistically, the team that ends up, pulling this one out is probably going to be the team that commits the fewest mistakes, whether it be penalties, turnovers, et cetera, whatever. I agree with Vincent. I think it's a much more of a must-win game for Wisconsin. But, Iowa's a team that's usually pretty competitive in the Big Ten. So they want to kind of keep, their name in the conversation, maybe not to win it, but at least, late in the season, you're looking down the standings. You don't have to scroll down too far to see them.
Yeah, with so many teams that are ranked ahead of them and others that should be ranked but aren't right now, I think big win for Iowa would put them in the conversation of, we're real close, but we didn't have it this year, but we're building for next year, and we're going to show you why. By winning on the road against Wisconsin. Remember, it's an unusually unique time. It's 7:00 instead of 7:30 on FS1. Next game we're going to look at. This is being from California. Vincent, SC and Michigan, that's a Rose Bowl game, and it's only a Rose Bowl game, but it's different this year. This is also a rebound game. SC goes out early last year and struggles mightily against Michigan there in the Big House. They lose at Ann Arbor, and now it's their retribution time. They get to do it all over again. They're 2-1 in the conference. They're 4-1 overall. 242 points. They can score. SC can. What are your thoughts here about the Trojans taking on Michigan, who, by the way, is also 4-1, and Michigan is 2-0 in the conference?
When I look at this football game, I think a playoff elimination game. The team that loses this game, we're going to take them out of the conversation of the college football playoffs. But getting back to SC, I think this is the best team Lincoln Riley's had since he's been out there in L.A. Offensive line has been fantastic, man. They've been able to run the football. They ran for 100 yards in all their games this season. And defensively, Mr. Ryan with the hair baby. You got Eric Gentry playing like he's a top 5 pick out there.
Yeah.
Seriously, I like what SC is doing, and they really should be undefeated because in that first half against Illinois, they drug them up and down the field and blew that game. This football team here, SC, is back similar to the SCs of the older years. And Lincoln Riley, I'm glad that you got your defense right, man, because this is a tough USC team. Now, Michigan, we've been waiting for Bryce Underwood, the freshman, to break out.
Yep.
He's been, I want to say, solid for a freshman. I think he's got 1,003 yards on the year. But what about Justin Haynes, another guy from y'all neck of the woods, Bruford High School? And I'm trying to figure out how in the world Alabama let him get away. The guy's been probably the best running back in the country, 654 yards. What are he averaging, about 7 yards a pop?
7.7. Yep, 7.7.
But I expect this football game is going to be like the old Rose Bowl matchups with national championship implications because this is a huge football game. I think the best game of the day, really, more better than Indiana and Ohio State because these teams right here, they want to get back in the conversation going to the college football playoffs. Even though Michigan won it, year before last, we know Michigan now has had a taste of that. They want to be there. And USC, based where you from, Harper, California, it's good when the Trojans are winning out there because Hollywood is in the air. It's nice when USC is at the top of the Lord in college football. Back to you, Harp.
Well, you mentioned Justin Haynes, and Brian, he's averaging 7.7 yards a carry, which is a great number. He's got 8 touchdowns. They have 17 ground TDs, only 5 in the air. Defensively, 15 sacks for Michigan, 7 interceptions. Those are pretty good numbers. SC has 17 sacks, 6 interceptions. So both defenses can play. But Jay and Maya Ava, 70%, 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, only been sacked 3 times. Is he going to be the difference maker for this one?
If SC wants to win, I think he's going to have to be. I think if Michigan's defense has anything to say about it, I don't, they're going to try to make sure that's not the case. But both teams had a bye last week, so this is going to be an interesting game. So both teams are going to come in really prepared. SC's got a sour taste in their mouth, obviously coming off of a loss in a game, which under Lincoln Riley, it's been kind of typical where the games they end up losing, they end up, a gap assignment miss, something, a missed tackle, whatever it is, and they break off a big play, and it's just a backbreaker for you, right? You've seen that a lot from the defensive side. They're improved on that side of the ball. They have been all year, but, with Illinois, it just wasn't quite enough. And we talked about, having to go play the late game the week before against Michigan State, where you're not getting done until 2:30, almost 3 in the morning Eastern time. And then you got to go play big noon kickoff, which is 9 a.m. local time for you. I think that threw them off a little bit. They didn't look like the same football team in the first half. They were very flat, very slow. I expect them to flip it around a little bit differently this week, and I expect the offense to pick it up. Lincoln Riley, this is a game I think he needs to win. This is a big game for him, and it's a game to keep them in the conversation. If you're Michigan, you're a young football team. You've had a lot of different, issues swirling around the program the last couple of years, and just to be in the conversation, still be ranked, and still be, a formidable team in the Big Ten is huge for them. I need to see Bryce Underwood do more this week, though. I think if they want to win this game, if they want to stay competitive, he's going to have a big week. Coming off a bye, he had a lot of film to digest. I think he's got to be ready, and I think he's got to show us why he's one of the top prospects in the country.
Yeah, a lot of reasons to tune in for this one, even though neither team is at the top of the conference right at the moment. They're on the doorstep. And Michigan's ranked number 15 because of that loss SC had that Brian mentioned. They're not ranked. They were 23rd, I think, when they played at Illinois.
Yeah.
But they've slipped out of it. But so is Penn State. Washington's not there. There's some other schools that are close. It's just going to take another couple of weeks before they settle back in. But obviously, this will be a very, very big game for me. It means a lot. It's a historical matchup that now that they're in the same conference, they play each other a lot more. But it used to be they would only play on January 1st in the Rose Bowl. But a lot of history there. Final game that we're going to look at, this one's at 7:30 as well. By the way, that SC game is going to be on ABC. This one's on the Big Ten Network, 7:30. Minnesota at 3-2 hosts the Boilermakers at 2-3. Minnesota's 1-1 in the conference right there, Vincent. But Purdue 0-2. Purdue needs to get a win here right now. Do they go into Minneapolis and get one?
The answer is no. I think Minnesota and JP Fleck, they need a big win because going into last week, I was kind of leaning with Brian a little bit. I thought Minnesota would play better at Ohio State, and they got steamrolled. I think this is a huge game for Minnesota from that standpoint. Purdue is Purdue, man. I hate to say it. In my opinion, they might be the worstest team in the league. So Minnesota is some get-right medicine right now. For you to really work on some things you're doing offensively and defensively, and P.J. Fleck, I like you as a head coach. This is a huge game for you. And if you lose this game to Purdue, then how we going to be looking at P.J. Fleck? Back to you, Hawk.
Well, Brian, it's not certainly got the panache and cachet that you would think, but both these schools really do need to get a win and desperately need one on Saturdays. Something's got to bend. What do you think about Purdue going into Minneapolis and taking on Minnesota?
Well, I'll say this, bad game for Minnesota last week. The defense wasn't terrible, right? A lot of points, but the offense did not help them out at all. They were on the field a lot. I mentioned earlier, Lindsey had less than 100 passing yards against that Ohio State defense. So I think for him, it's going to be a lot cleaner going from Ohio State to playing Purdue's defense. It's going to be night and day. It's going to be like things are moving in slow motion. I expect him to have a bounce back week. I think Minnesota's going to win this game. It's like Vincent said, it's tough, but Purdue is Purdue. You're one of the teams that, listen, college basketball is right around the corner. You get your get back come December and January in that regard, right? We understand that, but I like this Minnesota team. I think this is a team that, I think they win 7 games-ish, maybe get to a bowl game, but I think they're very good on defense. They're tremendous against the run. I don't expect that to change this week. I think they win the game.
Well, there you got it, folks. That's it. All 9 games. Vincent, final thoughts. Which, if you can only watch one, is there any particular one that you're going to pay attention to here in the Big Ten this week?
As I told you before, KC and the Sunshine Band, baby. Out there in Eugene this week. That's gonna be some must-see football right there. You got one team in Kersigeti. They got a lot to prove that they're still on the national level, even though they rank number 7. Hey, and they playing against a team that's been there for a while, that's had success with the uniforms. Phil Knight. This is a huge football game. That's the game I'm gonna be watching this Saturday. I think it's a game of the week, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be really
You,
good
you know, I
offensively.
mentioned it a couple of days ago when we did a show. We were going to feature this one, and I'm wondering what the reveal is going to be. I may want to tune in and pretend I'm a high school kid all over again. Are they going to come
Hmm.
out with the chrome? Are they going to have the duck feathers? Are they going to go old school with the yellow helmet with the
Donald Duck.
U and the O on it? Brian, what are your thoughts here about Oregon and this? Well, actually, I'm just going to ask you independently. What's your game that you're going to kind of peek in and make sure that you watch on Saturday or
Steve,
Friday night?
Multi-view. YouTube TV's got the multi-view. I'll be watching all 4. All the
Okay.
games. I got that. Yeah. I think this is a week though. Last thing for me is a lot of teams with 1 or 2 losses in the Big Ten that aren't ranked and maybe should be. I think this is where you start to see those teams creep up, right? Once you start getting some wins, the 1 and 2 loss teams are going to start sneaking in the top 25, and we're going to start get some separation from the pretenders and the contenders, as you say.
Well, folks, it starts on Friday evening at 9 o'clock Eastern, where you got Rutgers at University of Washington, and then there are going to be 8 games on Saturday, starting at noon and going all the way till 7:30 Eastern time. Those will be the kicks for each and every one of them. So that's been our Big Ten wrap-up. We get to look at some of the top games, and I guess my game would be, if I'm going to watch any one of them or at least want to peek, it'll be Indiana at Oregon, even though I think Illinois, if they play well and scare Ohio State. A lot of Buckeye fans said we haven't been scared all year, so maybe they put a little bit of fear in them. And as an old schooler, I'm thinking, gosh, I'd really love to see the Michigan USC game, at least kind of get a peek of that. And just hear one more time the SC marching band. It's 3rd and 4. Dun, 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 dun. It's 2nd and 18. Oh my gosh, we get a lot of it, but that's part of what we do.
Oh
So
man.
what we do here at 100 Yards of Football is try to break down everything that makes it easier and more important for you to be able to watch games and to be able to go to the water cooler at work and be able to brag about what you've learned. So we appreciate it. For Vincent Turner, for Brian LeBel, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. This has been the Big Ten Weekly Preview for week number 7. We hope you have a fantastic